Hello everyone, welcome back to Learning with Reese. Today we're going to be playing some more with functions and variables and looking exactly how functions are going to work for us. So I'm going to go and create a brand new program. Python, I'll give it a name of variables and functions. So I create my replit. Sometimes I'm working in online GDB, sometimes I'll work in Replit. They both do the same thing. So, I'm just going to print a little statement here. Print. I'll give myself some more space. Print. Welcome to this program. This program will help us to understand working. I'm just going to move this over a little bit, give myself more space. Understand working with local and global variables. And passing values between functions. Great. So we just have a little description to our user. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go declare a function. So def, remember, allows us to declare a function. And I'll give it a name, and I'll call it addition. Actually, no. I'll call it sum. Colon. What am I going to do in here? Well, I'm going to have one number, so number 2, and I'll make it equal to something. I'm going to say 7. And my total, well, before I do that, I should probably go up here, and I'm going to say that I'm going to bring in, oh, no, not yet. No. Total is equal to number 1 plus number 2. Now, I haven't declared number 1 yet, but I will in a minute. Total, print, our two numbers are number 1, I'll put in the and symbol, and number 2, print the total of these numbers is, comma, total. Now, it doesn't like me right now because it's telling me that number 1 has not been identified. I haven't declared it. There's no value in number 1. So that's why I'm getting the error up here, getting the error here. So I need to do that. And I'm going to go and declare the number 1 outside of my function. So you notice how my function is indented? It's indented 4 spaces. All the text that's indented right here is inside my function. If I want to be outside my function, I just hit the delete key and it moves me all the way back. So I'll have total, my value is number 1. And I'll make it equal to 8. Great. The lines have disappeared. I have a value for number 1. I have a value for number 2. Now I want to go and call my sum function. So, sum. And I'll test it out. And you see it tells us our two numbers are 8 and 7. So we have number 1, which was 8, and number 2, which is 7, and the total of these two numbers is 15. Perfect. Now watch what happens now. So we're able to access a number that I declared inside my function, and a number that I declared outside my function. This number, number 2, this variable is called a local variable. This one right here is called a global variable. You'll see what I mean in a moment. If I go and I try to print number 1 right here, I can, and I go and I try to print number 2, it runs and it tells me name number 2 is not defined. And I'm thinking, yeah, it is. My number 2 I defined up here. But because I defined it inside my sum function, number 2 only exists inside my sum function. I can't work with it outside of that function. It doesn't exist. It only exists inside. We call it a local variable. It only exists in one small place of our program. So, I'll show you another way we can understand it. I have number 2, I'll declare right here, equals 5. I run it again. Watch what happens. It says our two numbers are 8 and 7. The total of these two numbers is 15, which is what happens up here. And then it shows 8 and 5. Well, what happened? Well, I declared number 2 as 5, but then when I called my sum function, inside of here, it went and overrode it. It changed number 2 to 7. But later on, back down here, the change wasn't recorded outside of our function, and it went back to just being the value of 5. So, what happens if we want to use a value outside of our function? Well, we can do that. What we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to return a value. So watch. Return number 2. Now, when I call my function, sum, I want to assign it what's the value that's returned to a variable. So watch. I do number 2 is equal to the sum function. So now, check out what happens. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to copy this and I'll paste it right here. And I'm going to actually make this code a little bit better. Number 1, it shows it, and number 2. I'll copy it. I'll paste it over top. Now if I run it, I can see number 1, 8, and number 2, 5. I guess I should have some colons here. Makes it a little bit easier to read. Long number 1 is, let's make it grammatically correct. So, number 1 is 8 and number 2 is 5. Our two numbers are 8 and 7. The total of the two numbers is 15, and now number 1 is 8 and number 2 is 7. So, when I called it, I got the return value, which was number 2, which is 7, sent it back, and it updated my variable. It replaced 5 with 7. So that's how we can return values out of it. Let's go and do another example. So, I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to do some new code. Well, actually, I'm going to create another function here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and declare another function, and I'm going to go and call it circle calculator. And it's going to bring in a value. When we want to go and calculate dimensions of our circle, so whether it's the circumference or the area, we need to use either the radius or the diameter, or not the radius, the radius or the diameter. So I'm going to bring in the radius. Now what I'm doing up here is I'm saying I'm actually going to, when I call this function, I'm going to send to it a value. So what am I going to do here? Well, and also you'll see it's underlined right now. It's saying that I can't declare a function without putting at least one thing inside of it. So if I have the radius, I can now go and do some calculations to calculate the area and the circumference of my circle. So I'm going to go and calculate both the circumference of my circle. So the circumference is going to be equal to, oh, I guess I should also go and declare pi before I do that. Pi, the value of pi. And I honestly, at the top of my head, I don't know. I'm going to go do a quick search for it. and we're going to use here 3.14159. Okay, so I'll go back. 3.14159. Great. Circumference of my circle is going to be equal to pi times diameter. But I don't have the diameter, so that is radius times 2. I want to do that part first, so I put it in brackets. That's going to get my circumference. And then I have area, and that is going to be equal to pi times radius times radius times radius times radius. Great. I've gone and done my calculations. So it's just telling me some warnings here that I'm declaring these, but I'm never using them. So I'm going to go and output all my information here. Print. Here are the dimensions of our circle. I apparently missed my quotation marks. Okay, print. So first off, I'm going to have the radius. I'll output radius. Print circumference. Circumference shows up. And print, and we will have area. Great. So I'm going to print everything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and call it. And I'm going to call it a couple of times. Oh, and also just do a little bit of, make it look a little bit better, I'm just going to go and output a blank line first. So I'm going to go and call my circle 3 times. So circle calculator. First time, I'm just going to send a value of 10. I'll call it again. And remember, I have to send to it a value because I am bringing in a value here. It expects to find one. And we're going to see what happens if I don't send one. Circle calculator. And then I'll send to it a value of 45.5. So let's run it. So it shows me does my first, the sum function. That goes fine. It does my circle the first time, the radius of 10, shows me my calculations. And then it crashes. And it tells me missing one required positional argument, radius. What it's telling me is this function is expecting a value. I did not send it a value, so it doesn't know what to do. It crashes. So I have to go back here and fix it. And I'll send to it 25. I run. There we go. It allows me to output all my stuff. I'm going to change it up a bit, though. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to print my area here. I'm going to grab this code. And after each one of these, I'm going to print area. Now, of course, it's telling me undefined. That's because, of course, area only exists inside this function right now. So how do I fix that? Well, I am going to return the area, which means every time I call it, I'm going to return a value. So area is equal to that calculator. Area equals, and then if I don't change it the third time, I'll see that I can return a value, but if I'm not doing anything with it, it doesn't change. This value and this value are identical. So I need to make sure I bring it in. Try it again, and I can see that, oh, did it in the wrong spot. Area equals, perfect. Now there's one more thing that I want to do in this program. I'm taking a look over here, definitely in some of these areas, there are a lot of decimal places. I want to change that. I want to go and round my answers to 2 decimal places. So let's figure out how to do that. I'm going to go over here. I'll do a search. Python round to 2 decimal places. And it tells me I can go use my round argument. Let's see if it shows me how. So what it's showing me is I'm going to go and round. It's not the best answer, but put in the value that I'm going to round and then comma how many places I want to round to. So let's go and do that. So after I bring in the area here, I'm going to go and round it. So area is equal to, I'm going to do str. Okay, so I want to go and round what I am going to, my numbers here. So this is how I'm going to do it. I want to change my area, so I have my area value, but I want to round it. So I use a round function, area, comma, 2. And what that's going to do is it's going to say, use a built-in math function called round. I put in what do I want to round. I want to round the area. And then comma, how many decimal places. So I'll do the same thing down here. Area equals round, area, comma, 2. And then just to change it up a little bit on the last one, I'm going to go area equals round, area, comma, 3. I run, and I can see this is 3 decimal places, 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places. So there we go, everyone. This is a little bit of working with local variables, so ones that are inside of one particular function. Global variables, ones that we declare outside that can be used everywhere. And how to pass variables both into a function and return it from a function. That should help you out working with local and global variables and functions. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.